It's 5:30. So I'd like to call to order the December 8th, 2022 Library Board meeting. First, we'll take roll call. Alana? Here. Tony?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
And Mandy?
Here.
And I am here. So we have a full board. I don't know when the last time that's happened. So I am pleased that everyone is here. Welcome. So we are looking to do an approval of the order of the agenda.
So moved.
A second?
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, order of the agenda passes. So then we look at our consent agenda. We have both the library board minutes from November and then the approval of financial reports. And we will look to approve both in the consent agenda.
I move to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Consent agenda passes. Next, we do have some action items on our new business. So the first one is proposed job description updates. There is a link there, but then Betty, I would welcome you to a mic or up front to kind of talk through thoughts that you're having.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm standing here? Okay. So the first proposal is for proposed job description updates primarily to adult services manager and to technical services and collection development managers. Their titles will be changing to align better with what services need to be taken at this point in time from their capacities to not overwhelm what's already going on. So I'll start with adult services and then I'll go to the technical services and collection development. So adult services manager currently has been working under the radar without having her job description reflect that she has been working as the access service manager, essentially overseeing the circulation supervisors and aligning their policies with procedural day-to-day formats for them to utilize. So I wanted to incorporate that after discussing with her the role that it currently is and what my expectations are for access services in general, and access services includes primarily circulation and patron-facing activities. So she has accepted the responsibility of that as an interim role for the next estimated 2 to 3 years, and that's why I do have it outlined in the proposal that way, because this is not a permanent fix. This is to get access services set and ready for a new manager to step into that role and have it be that there is procedures in place and policies that they can then refresh when it's under their new vision of access services. Currently, there is nothing really written down for access services to even walk into. And so this is just setting up the next person for success based on what we have currently active and how we've been engaging with the public without documentation of the procedural side of it. Are there questions about that one? So that title would change from adult services manager to adult and patron services manager with a couple of the caveats added there.
So,
You're looking to, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
You're looking to add another library service manager position that of access service.
In the future. Currently, it's just, they've already been doing that role.
Is your mic on?
Is it? I don't know.
It has a green button. Oh, Larry's, sorry.
Larry's
Your
mic isn't
not
on.
Okay, it's on now.
Okay.
Okay, hi. So yeah, they currently have been working without an access service manager ever since that deputy director position was created, because it was created with the funds for that access service manager. It left the alignment very tilted to where we have our program management on lock, where everything is going in a good direction with our program services, but the circulation supervisors didn't have anybody to go to. Currently, they were going to me, and in between, we have the management who has 3 different voices, and so they're hearing 3 different answers, and then my answer on top of that, now added into the mix, makes 4. So this is to streamline it for access services for those 2 circulation supervisors to have more guidance and have one voice to go to in the interim to sort of fine-tune the procedural side of the policies that we've been initiating. And the adult services manager has stepped into that role already, so it's just allowing that to be recognized in the job description, and it does not change the pay grade or anything to that capacity.
So, and because I'm newer to the board, so before when the deputy position was hired, before that time, was that position just open?
There was a person there. That person was, what was it? Was
They resigned,
yeah,
okay.
from
And
that.
so with that resignation, then it was chosen to then move into a deputy position.
Correct. And that
And now we're
deputy
going to-
position was intended to oversee the managers as well as circulation, and I just don't foresee that being a good structure overall, because still it leaves circulation, which is our primary patron-focused area. People come in to circulation first, that they need the most guidance right now to get everyone on the same page, because it would work upward the ladder than the procedural side of it.
Okay. Do you have a visual hierarchy?
I didn't make one for this, and I apologize, but currently I can get you one
Yeah.
for the
I'm
next meeting.
probably more of a visual person.
Yeah,
And just to, I guess, in my mind, just to see where, and not the people, but the position,
yeah,
how positions lay out and how that is aligned to the work that we need to have happen in the
Absolutely.
library.
yeah.
So
I can
that
do
would kind of be an ask of me personally, but
Yeah. I
just
can
because I'm a visual person.
Do we
Org
have one
charts are
that's
good.
current?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We may be able to show you
It's
today,
okay.
but
I mean, again, I want to try to recognize what has been done in the past, what we're trying to fix,
yeah,
and then what it would look like, and then how do we make sure we're serving the right, and again, we want to serve patrons
yeah, absolutely.
in the end, and so then making sure that we're serving the right people,
Yeah,
and then the positions are in the right spot. And then my other question around, so then I know it's titled right now as the deputy position in the budget, and we still have that earmarked.
we still have the funding
We
earmarked.
still have the
for that.
funding
Yes.
earmarked. Okay.
Yep. There have been internal discussions that we are going to be presenting today. Unfortunately, we didn't have it all timed
Okay.
out. So we plan on bringing you forward more details on that in January's meeting, once it's a little bit more fleshed out on our end.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So there are other moving parts to this. This is just the initial phase of getting the structure, so that primarily because we added the circulation supervisor, which was very beneficial. It was absolutely needed, but now we have 2 persons who need a manager figure to sort of make a final say and guide them in curating those procedural changes.
Okay.
Any other questions about adult?
Sorry.
No,
I had a
that's
lot of
fine.
questions.
That's good. Anything else for that one? Okay, so the second one is technical services and collection development. I would like for the collection development portion to be reinstated to its original caregivers, who were adult services and youth services. Technical services is very much back-end database, analytical. It's a lot of addressing the structural integrity that creates our catalog's ease of access, as well as other patron services that are internal and technological. There's often very quick fires that come up and need to be remedied immediately, and collection development has been one of those that can be redirected to those who are patron-facing, and that is adult services and youth services. And after speaking with all of the managers, it's has not had a lot of negative feedback to me that these changes would be accepted by these managers. There has been the librarian as well, the youth librarian, is also appreciative of having this opportunity to have more say in her collection development. And it would really redirect this one position that is primarily out of the patron focus. Their focus is on the patron experience from the catalog side. These are the people who are dealing with the patrons face-to-face every day. And so having them do the collection development for their collections, to be able to promote them properly, to be able to guide the community when they do come in looking for different things to those collections is going to be more beneficial in the long run. And primarily that just includes the collection development, purchasing and weeding processes. Currently, they've been going through a very large weeding process, so it's going to be just now care and management of the collection going forward. There's only 2 departments that need, it's adult nonfiction that still needs a little weeding, which we've been talking about, and mystery, sci-fi, and Western. So the rest of the collections have all been weeded to where there's space for those collections to grow. So currently it's about reestablishing that collection development that was removed in past years from those departments and pulled to technical services, just reinstating it back to those who are patron outward focused positions. And I believe it was about 3 years ago that the technical services took on collection development. I'm unsure why that change occurred.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago, and I'm not sure what transpired to cause that. However, we do have more staffing, such as the youth librarian, and again, we're planning on presenting more options for staffing at the next meeting that will help alleviate and redesign the structure a little bit, including affecting the collection development aspect.
Well, and again, and I think that's where my other question was headed. Like, I know we've been short-staffed in certain areas, and so how is this laying the groundwork then for where we need to go in terms of staffing, in terms of making sure that we have, especially during peak times where the library is being used, that we have the correct staffing to meet patron need? And is this the right move in terms of setting the stage for that? Are we going to need to add, again, we have that earmark of money for a position. Where does that fit? And then how do we, because I don't want to move too many pieces now if we're going to move more later, or is this the moves we need to make additional moves?
These are the moves that would make it to where it's more standardized for the future moves that are planned. With discussions, the collection development in reality will be split between the manager and their librarian, and the hope is that we'll be able to onboard somebody with a librarian degree to assist with collection development in that regard, who is patron focused in January. And that, again, we'll have more detail for you in January. But this is a structural change from management, so that way we can adjust going downward. That's just the job descriptions that I've been really evaluating, and I backtracked for the past 5 years of job description alterations, and saw how the pieces were moved. I can't explain all the reasons for that, but currently I'm just trying to rectify it that makes the most sense for the services that each department are providing. If you're a patron-focused and patron-centered division of the library, you should be able to explain why a material is in your collection as a patron-focused person. When it's tech services, who is primarily behind the scenes, it's a lot harder than for. And even right now, if I request a book to be added, I have to email 2 to 3 people. And that's not convenient for anybody, because I don't want it to be multiple voices, again, similar to what's going on with circulation right now. And so that's why those 2 positions are the primary management ones that I'm addressing. Youth services is really stable in their structure of hierarchy. They have the youth librarian and they have a full-time program assistant. Technical services would then be able to really go in and in a timely fashion address internal changes. There is a process that has taken over 3 years, around 3 years, to rectify, and I feel that having collection development, which is a routine thing, every month you have to have things submitted, and you have to do a lot of looking into magazines and seeing what is coming out in the next 3 months to be able to address that. And that's very structured, whereas if your job is primarily putting out fires and fixing back-end things so the experience is good, fitting in regularly stabled projects sometimes go to the wayside. And it's not any fault of anybody's. It's, I think, a structural thing that can be remedied for the efficiency of the overall library and patron service at the end of the day.
Is this something that you have discussed with staff? And if so, what is the feedback?
I
that they
have addressed it with all staff and one-on-one as well in groups. And the one-on-ones, I did not receive any feedback. That was not something that we could address. And overall, there is excitement for it. There's trepidation in the sense that this is something, particularly if they've been hired and then the last 2 years, they didn't have this experience before. But it's something that, because the collection currently is fresh and refreshed to the level that it is, I am confident that we'll be able to get everybody to that point of excitement to do this job. And the technical services then also would be able to focus on inventory, which from what I'm aware has never been done. And that is a huge, huge red flag for libraries. We need to know what's going on in the entire collection. And again, that's a back end item that's been neglected that needs to be addressed.
Inventory takes a lot of time,
Correct.
and it takes a certain amount of people. Do you have that time, and do you have that number of people?
With removing collection development from their title, absolutely, because they have also 2 full-time people and a part-time person in technical services. Adult services is the only one that's working with 1 full-time and part-time people. The part-time people are outreach and program assistants. And with that, the programming and everything is smooth. The adult services librarian or manager can speak on that, but that her area is functioning very well, and it's a very solid workflow that they have already initiated. And so she is capable, and I'm confident in her abilities to be able to take this as well.
What are the, in terms of updating and changing job descriptions, what does the HR department, what is the process with the HR department to change those job descriptions?
Once you approve it, then it's
Okay.
approved and sent to HR.
Okay.
And again, this is temporary, or is this?
Adult services is temporary. The technical services should be permanent because, again, they're not the patron-focused person. If they were sitting at the front desk all day or hosting programs, that would be a completely different story. But I feel, especially with how many challenges we're seeing to libraries, we really need to be proactive in understanding and feeling confident in our collection answers as well as our reasonings for that, and having just one voice be that for adult and one voice be that final say for youth, I think is the best way to go, and this just addresses that. Collection, technical services still will be participating as part of the collection development team, so they also have to still do the back-end work of entering them into the catalog, doing the bib records, the short records, and then the long records, and making sure that the books look pretty when they come out and have the correct lines on the side stickers, and making sure that everything is in place. So it's not that they aren't a part of it, it's that it's strictly the collection purchasing and weeding portions that are being slid. Any other questions?
I was able to find, and I slightly adjusted them to the rules.
Okay.
But I could provide those to you. I don't know how.
Do you want to use my USB? I have my USB here, and we can plug it in.
So I know that this is an action item while they're looking
Yeah,
for that.
yeah.
Since If we decide to take action, do we need to do 2 action items to make one a temporary and one, or can we just approve or discuss? Can the motion be to approve it as provided, or should we specify it?
I think if we're going to make a motion in approving both, I think we could make the one motion that we approve as specified in this memo.
Okay.
But if there's any adjustments or any questions we have, I think then we would split it. If there's a split in any of the discussions around the 2 different positions.
And thank you, Ellen, for your fast.
Yeah, I do appreciate, because I was actually going to probably table it until I could visually see.
And that's understandable.
changes.
I apologize for that. And if you could just put it in that folder for today's meeting.
Betty, while she's setting that up, what's your time frame for, what's your goal with this? When would you like to have this take place? Immediately?
Have the adjustments
Yeah.
happen. As I said, Adult Services has already taken on that role, so that would continue to be that way. Just now, having the green light instead of a little bit of timidity toward it. Still, she's been very respectful and double checking with me, but this would give her the authority to do what she needs to do in a timely fashion to address those concerns. And then the circulation or the collection development aspect of it, we have a meeting scheduled out in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, but it could be next week. Yeah, there's a couple meetings that we have where we'll have ongoing conversations about this shift and what it means for those people in practicality, and to adjust timelines and to set expectations and goals that are reasonable for those departments. So it's not a pulling the rug immediately for anybody. It's a lot of, I want to foster it to be a positive experience. Thank you.
So there are,
Go ahead.
there are 2 versions on here. One is showing what it will be eventually, when the position would be split. So there would
Okay.
be a patron services and a adult services. And one is kind of just showing, Kirsten and the people underneath her right now.
Wait, which one is which? Oh. Social profile deployment is not allowed.
Do you have access to our email? Can you email it to us, or can you do that within, well, it would still show up for public meeting
Right.
purposes?
I'm telling you, me and technology are not friends.
It's always worse with an audience, too. It never
Yeah,
works.
I know.
That's what,
I'm trying to look away like from everything.
Yeah.
I won't make eye
I
contact.
keep asking
if
questions.
Ellen would have plugged it in, it would have worked just fine.
I think in order to really move things along, we should just huff.
Huff a lot, yeah. Harumph, could I harumph?
You can hurry.
Yes. Bah humbug, that's also acceptable. Yes, it's opening on my computer as well, so I don't know why this device is not allowing it. And that's what it was telling us, to re-log in, and I'm like, no. Mm-mm. Just keep rocking.
Okay. I think I have everybody on here.
Betty, how often do you meet with the library service managers as a team?
As a team, they host their own meetings, and I am always open to meeting with them. It is in their job description, or in the city handbook,
Sure, I get it.
for members
I got
to
it.
openly come to their supervisors if they feel a meeting is needed. So
Right.
that way, it's both ways.
But you don't have anything scheduled with the team on a regular basis. You wait for them to come to you.
No, I schedule meetings with them on a one-on-one basis primarily, because if I ever need to meet with them, currently, if I meet with them in a group, I just go to that room.
Right.
And I think she can attest to that, that I'm very open. If I have an idea or anything happening, I go right to them and talk to them openly in their room. And then I have the one-on-ones as they're needed, and those are pretty regular, where it's at least once a month that I'm trying to meet with everybody one-on-one, from the management and administration.
All right, thank you.
So,
Yes.
Three service managers is what it would
Here.
currently be.
Okay.
you can move it. I've already looked at it. You can move it between
So
Mary and
the
you, so he
first
doesn't have to look.
attachment is what it currently is.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So the combination of the adult services
He's
manager
got it.
and
He's got it
patron.
close enough. Okay.
Oh. Hold on.
Okay, so then the new
The
one.
only, there is a missing box underneath that. Kirsten currently does have 2 part-time program assistants as well for adult services.
Okay. I'm sorry, Larry. I don't know
all
what
right.
happened to my computer.
And so I know you've answered this, but there's been a lot of information. So future thinking for the deputy director, how would this then change again if we move forward, when we move forward?
Downward. At this moment, it would go downward. In all honesty, I can be transparent with saying that the staff, as well as myself, do not see a need for a deputy director at this point. If we were a multi-branch library or anything to that capacity, it would be something that would be in play. But this would be a downward from, so at this time, not adding any more managers, but bulking up those teams to represent what is needed to provide efficient services and programming to the capacity that we can within our bounds. And I think that next meeting, you guys will be pleased with what we come up with. Again, it was just about timing between all of the different parts that we couldn't get it on this meeting's agenda.
Yeah, and I apologize if you've already said this.
No, that's okay.
So there's not a hiring of any new people at this time?
At this time, no, not
Okay.
anything that's already currently existing. So
Okay.
there is one technical, the technical services specialist has sent in her resignation and is being currently hired for, but that's under technical services. It's already an existing
Yes.
position.
But with the movement, there's not
Nope.
new positions?
No, currently this is to get everybody to have confidence in who they're reporting to. And circulation supervisors feel very confident reporting and honestly and openly with the adult services manager. And that's part of why I didn't want to introduce another new person who they may not be able to bring those concerns that are lingering forward. Yeah.
I don't have a motion, but I have a proposal to discuss.
Okay.
That maybe we break this into 2, because it sounds like there's more information coming next month, but I don't want to stop what's going. So my proposal is that we approve what's already happening, because it seems like that is working, and that's good. And we know that there's been big issues in the past with the circulation department and the management of it, and table the next part until we have all of the information.
Well, actually, next month it would be the adult services that would be being proposed. Technical services and collection development, if that part is not separated out currently, there's still going to be a lot of confusion around that. Right now, that is what I'm trying to do, is clear up for all who are involved,
Yeah.
all of the aspects of it. As I said, currently, we have reports going to one person who may be adding things to a cart, and then we have 2 or 3 people in one cart and not one final person in a cart to ship off. And so there may be redundancies, and the collection may be leaning one way or leaning the other, and that's just something that I'm a little concerned with, given the climate that libraries are facing right now, to not be addressed.
Can I, for just so in my own head, it kind of looks like you're just simplifying
Correct.
things. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because you've got your one column for youth services, one column for adult services, one column for technical services.
Yes.
And the other one it seemed more complicated. You had extra, there was
Yes.
more stuff. So To me, what you have here looks like it makes sense. So, yeah. I
And
like it.
adult and youth are the ones who are dealing with the public side and technical and that's where collection development, I feel, really goes in
That
those
makes sense.
buckets.
And then the last column, technicals, then behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me.
I do have a firm proposal, and that is to move to table discussion of this item until the next board meeting, so that the library staff have enough time to assemble their information, and so that we have enough time to gather more information ourselves.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table that's been seconded to bring this back next month at the board meeting so that we can continue to do work on it and that Betty can come back with additional information if needed. So motion a second. Any other questions?
I'll just make a comment. I feel very comfortable with what you've proposed, but it seems like the consensus, people want to table it, so I'm fine with that too. So.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table it till next month. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, motion passes to table it till next month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, we will move on to library, let's see, no, am I in the right one? Yes, severe weather and emergency closure policy.
Okay, so that's that time of year, and this policy hasn't been updated since 2014. It's about time for it to have an update to what is currently going on. The primary change is that the city now has internal communications, which have been tested with all of the staff this past week to see that they are receiving the messages. From what I'm aware, no one had said that they did not receive the proper message return. So this is essentially just finalizing, and not only severe weather, which is what the initial policy was, but including emergency closures that are outside of just severe weather. We all just came out of a pandemic, so we know that things can change with the tip of a hat, and this sort of beefs up our policy to address those type of unexpected closures, as well as outlining what happens with staff.
I assume this aligns with whatever the city is working on.
Yes.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Policy change moves forward. All right, library connection or collections relocation request.
That is Kirsten, who has a wonderful presentation ready for you.
All right, bear with me while I get all my things set up here. Magical. Okay, so I'll walk through a few elements of this, but it's been a long coming project. Oh gosh, did I just mess something up? Okay, we're good. That was close. Oh, we're doing well today. I'm Kirsten Hennigan. I'm the Adult Services Manager here. I should probably introduce myself for all the people who watch us on the internet. So in here, we'll talk through a little bit of what is proposed, but this actually idea has been born before I started working at the library, actually. There's been a goal to have our large print collection down on our main floor for ease of accessibility of those that utilize that collection and those that want to use it so they don't have to use our elevator. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's where the idea of this project really came from. It's been talked about in years past, but has been unable to be accommodated just based on the furniture that we have and the shelving that we have available on the main level of the library, that the collection is too big, great problem to have, but the furniture doesn't quite yet accommodate that that collection in the space that it would need in order to be best accessible to the patron. So that's where we get to our super fun overview and the goals of this. So really, the purpose of this change would be to increase that accessibility of our large print collection by housing that with our audiobook CDs. Oftentimes, there's quite a bit of overlap for the user of those collections, whether they would like that larger print or would like to listen to the books that they're reading. That would also move our book club kits, which currently reside behind the service desk and aren't largely accessible readily to the patrons, but that we could move those out onto the library floor for folks to view them and have them circulate a bit more than they currently are. That idea has been tested by other libraries in our Odin consortium, and that works really well for them, but it hasn't been able to happen with our current layout of the library. So this would address that issue and create a space for that to be viewable by the patrons. It also enhances the entire patron experience for our folks. Our children's area is currently cramped when we get our Wednesday story times, where we can get 50, sometimes 70 people in that area of the library. So we want to create space for our families to be engaged with the programs that our wonderful children's services librarian provides, and able to have all of those families engage with those programs. But it also creates a space for our teens, which currently have a awkward hallway by our elevator, and could have an increased space for them to have and claim as their own, and have a space to engage with the library as well. But also enables our large print patrons to not have to ask the staff members for use of our elevators. You guys are aware of that. Our elevator needs a key access to go upstairs, since we share that elevator with other entities in the building. For security reasons, that's important, since we share the building with an early childhood center and the school as well. But it also optimizes the space for our teen fiction, the teen nonfiction, our adult fiction, graphic, all of those collections, and allows them space to grow. We have done a pretty good job now as a result of weeding those collections, but giving them more space as well would be a part of this project as well. And visibility. Did you all know that we have adult graphic novels at the library? Well, we do, but they're currently kind of hidden where they're residing. They're on the back wall upstairs by an emergency exit. So you don't really stumble upon them unless you're walking and looking for Jacqueline Windspear at the end of the collection. So without knowing where they are, it's hard for those to circulate as well as we would like them to. It is an emerging and growing medium for adults, and so we want to make that more front and center for our adults to experience them. So what does that mean in real life? Well, when you pull one string, you pull many. So here's what it currently looks like on the main floor of the library. There's lots of colors, so I'll try to line some things up for you. So this is the children's corner where it is now, where audiobooks currently reside. We have our current month magazines here. And then we have our book club individual titles. So each of our book clubs, I buy those 10 copies, so you're familiar with that process. That's where they are right now for folks to run in, grab their copy, and run out. In this staff area is where those book club kits reside, and the new adult book area. The new main floor layout would be this. We would move large print and audiobooks together by the south-facing windows, so the big windows that you see and have lit on all of that light. Our book club kits would be repurposed onto this shelving here. The change, though, that requires this is that we need to utilize the teen fiction shelves, which have a bunch of books on them, right? So we'd need to displace that teen fiction collection in order to move those shelves downstairs and consolidate large print and audiobooks together. As a result, that would also shift our audiobooks out of this area, and the youth services team has requested that we just remove those shelves altogether, and that we'll look to adding additional furniture for purchase in that space, whether that's additional seating or additional interactive play equipment. The options are kind of limitless for them, so they're wanting to do a little bit more investigation into the next calendar year of what would be greatest utilized after they try out the new space with what story times look like in that space, having that additional room for their programs to grow. The only other change on this side, which I will say one we've already done, we've moved our junior magazines here and extended this wall where our junior graphics are, so there's a little bit more room for that collection to grow, which circulates a lot at the library. The last change here on the floor would be that junior fiction right now has a junior height that's about this height, and then there is an additional lower height range that's next to it where the collection wraps out. This would bring it all up to that higher junior height. We have enough pieces for that in order to have that collection grow. And our individual book club titles would go into this new book area on some wall-mounted elements.
New adult books would be where?
Same spot.
Okay.
Same spot. Yep, we would just add additional wall mounts into that area to put book club titles in there as well. Yep. Good question. So this is what upstairs looks like right now. So right now we have Nonfiction on this side, there's large print, and we have our back issue periodicals along this wall. We have our adult graphic novels, all of our adult fiction, and the genre collections, teen fiction, teen graphic. And our noon teen stuff is over here wall mounted. This will switch to a bit more streamlined. The grander vision with our adult fiction is to remove those genres. That'll be a much longer project because it will take a long time to relabel a lot of those things, and that will be starting in 2023, likely through 2024, mostly because that issue is a problem for patrons too. So if I'm looking for James Patterson, who has mysteries, but he also has some things in general fiction, you're going to multiple places in the collection in order to find the books that you're looking for. So if we are able to degenrify that collection, we'll pull adult graphic to the front of it, and then it'll be just ABC all the way through, back to the back wall, alphabetically by last name. We would also, with the repurposing of that teen shelving to the main floor, we would bring that lower height of audio shelving to the upstairs, and that's where all of our magazines would go. I'm sure you're wondering, where do magazines go? They will go here. All of the current magazines and back issue magazines will be shelved together, so they don't have to go to two places anymore. It'll all be one place for them to access any of our adult magazines. The teen collection in its entirety would go to where large print and periodicals are right now. Largely that shelving will stay the exact same that it is, so there's not much changes that needs to happen over there. The only change that we will do is there's a shorter range here. We'll extend that to have a little more space for our adult nonfiction, and then we'll have basically teen graphic through teen fiction all on this side. We'll add some additional seating over here, consolidate more of a study wall here with a future idea of maybe that becomes a work bar station for folks with additional plugins for people just to pop in with laptops. But for now, we'll utilize the furniture that we have in order to make those changes. Any questions about those changes? Yes?
What is the blank spot to the west of the staff area?
Blank spot.
North,
North, well,
This?
on that one. Right next to it, there's
Go
a big
north.
white
Oh,
square.
there you go.
It's nothing. It's a fire escape over there.
Oh, okay.
It's actually how the floor is. The building is very strange.
Yes.
The that area is basically just unutilized. So it's behind where our break room is, but it's an overhang to the floor below.
Okay,
There's like
it's not usable space.
no, it's not functional. We don't use that space at all. Nope, not for us. Any questions about the maps? All right, then we'll go to how does this all happen? How does this all come together? Our big ask is that we are able to close to the public for this change. We will be displacing a number of collections in order to make this all happen. As a result, we'll also need to utilize Public Works time to disassemble and reassemble many of these furniture elements and a lot of shelving ranges. So our request is around that staff development day off that we have, that we're able to close that Sunday, as well as the following Tuesday. There's a lot of details that go into how do we shift every piece. So I already have a 21-page document of which pieces need to move where in order for us to be successful in doing it in that time frame. We will need 2 of those full days with our Public Works team in order to make that happen. We'll also need to leverage our school building maintenance staff because of those large signage pieces that we have above our collections. We'll also need to move with this project. So Sunday will largely be utilized for our staff to prepare for this change. We'll move a lot of books to start with so that things are empty for our Public Works folks that Monday morning to come get right to work and moving some of those things. So while we are in our required staff training things, that we can still use that time for staff development, but the afternoon be utilized for shifting those collections and preparing for the next day in order to move more of those furniture pieces that their Public Works staff will help us do, and then utilizing the rest of that day to finalize signage, finalize anything we need to do to prepare the public for this change as well, because it'll be a lot of things moved for them to utilize the library as well. But no additional shelving is being purchased for this. We are utilizing everything that we have in our storage. We have a lot of pieces, which was interesting to count, but we have all of the elements needed and all of the shelves needed in order to make this happen. Since we are moving all of those things, like I said, things will be displaced for our patrons, so they wouldn't necessarily be able to access the things they would need if they were to visit the library during that time. It may require a few additional part-time staff or full-time staff to help us that Sunday in preparation, but not anything outside of bounds that our budget would be able to accommodate for. And in total, the additional ask is 15 hours to be closed to the public, in addition to that staff development day that we would have off for that. Any questions for me?
Is the board approving the movement or the time closed?
The closure.
Okay. It looks like you did a lot of research on this.
It's a lot of math.
I will move to approve plan.
Including the days off. Okay. We have a motion to approve the plan with the days requested off.
Closed.
Closed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have donation and gift policy.
And I do have to give Kirsten more praise for all that work. I came back and she had whiteboard, journal, numbers everywhere. It looked, it was, I can only imagine what her brain looked like in action. So she deserves a lot of praise for that, addressing those concerns in my absence and having something to present so quickly for you guys. I was very appreciative of her commitment to addressing those needs for the patrons. So donations and gifts policy was part of the collection policy. We just separated it out. There were a couple versions existing, and so we researched, again, Kirsten's hand, she researched while I was out, other libraries' collection or donation policies. This alters it from just a donation policy to a gifts policy. As we move forward with planning, libraries are always in need of funding, and we are wanting to advocate in the future for outside revenue sources. So this would allow for a policy to be in play that we can point to when we are seeking funding in new and alternative ways. So it got brought about because we were doing that collection development policy, and that was approved in the last round. So this is just tidying up that final part that was not included, and having it be its own policy because it specifically deals with things coming into the library from outside sources. Were there any questions about it?
So we pulled it from another policy. We're creating a separate policy. And then the changes in yellow are the additions.
The changes
No.
in yellow were left over from me because at the time of my submitting it, the media material was primarily dependent on what the Friends had voted at their meeting. They, from what I'm aware, it is all a go, so that would be just white, correct? The monetary donation part was that I had to check with the city, and that appears as well to be all confirmed as well. So again, because of the timeline, and that was partly why it was published on Monday, is that there were pieces that I was still trying to
Got it.
get together. But especially with the Friends planning a book sale, we wanted to have it presented sooner rather than later so we can initiate these procedural sides. So, were there any other questions?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the donation and gift policy as proposed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up, we have our director's report, starting with, well, wherever you want to start with, but library statistics and the actual report.
All right, how did you get this to be all big, Kirsten? I don't like that it doesn't have. Thank you. Thank you. Telling you, me and tech. All right, so as you may or may not have found out from if you watched the city commission meeting or were present, like Mandy was, we did receive the 2022 North Dakota Star Library Award. This is presented from North Dakota State Library. It is something that is done based on the annual report. So although I cannot take credit for it, I sent out my praises from an email to the entire staff, because this is based on 2021's annual reports statistics that were sent in, that they were recognized for above and beyond service essentially in almost all areas, given our financial level. So I was very happy to report that to the City Commission as well as you all today. I did have this feedback highlighted. This was actually pulled from Facebook, and it was a comment that was left, and this is to youth who were at first time at the library, and the parent just had to go online and just express how the library to them is a gem, and that our service created future readers in these two children. So I'm hoping it doesn't work. Nope. It was supposed to play the video, but it's a 3-second clip that the parent had included. So if you look on Facebook, you would be able to find it. And they are just so excited back there watching how the books get dropped into the book drop and how they're received on our end. So they got a little sneak peek onto what it's like to be a librarian back there, or a library staff member receiving books. The display case at the entrance has been changed to display new either program materials. This is the tiny art that teens did. It's also going to in the future be used for book displays and different displays that are determined by programs or by staff involvement, getting everybody a little bit more use out of that case. Prior to that, it was just featured what could be checked out technologically that patrons may not have been aware of, and it was pretty stagnant in its use. It was just a one-type display. So that's been updated. I did want to make you guys aware that water was accidentally turned off at the library. It was quickly rectified once the building was notified. It was due to a flood that was happening on the other side of the building. Everyone except for us was informed. So we are going to, in the new year, be advocating for funding for building or for addressing these type of concerns. The mitten tree has also been set up, so if you do want to donate any warm winter gloves, scarves, boots, coats, that type of material to the library, we have had wonderful donations so far, but there's always a need for that. And also another thing that we are going to address in 2023 is the signage on the book drops that are outside of our location, because the signage is wearing off and it's starting to look like a trash can, which one got beer canned, and Kirsten was wonderful enough to clean it up. So staff have been very busy. I was happy to see that we had 2 pages of continuing education that was attended this past month. Part of what's good about not having summer reading go all year long is that staff can do this sort of revamping of their skills and refreshing their abilities and in their positions. Reading has continued, and I believe it is completed for both junior nonfiction and adult fiction. Again, like I said, adult nonfiction and the genres are specifically what's left that I've been made aware of. And this is what the internal book drop looks like. So what you saw was the back side, the staff side. This is what I've encouraged staff to do, is create a more engaging book drop. So 1, people know where it is and it's inviting, and 2, to really get that imagination going for kids. So when they drop it in, they have some excitement behind it. The tech services I had mentioned earlier does have that one part-time team member, and they have selected a candidate who has accepted as of today. So very happy about that. We'll be back to full staff. Finance is 78% for the last, we're going into our last month. So there are some things that you guys noted in the financial report that are on the docket for December purchasing, but we're still going to be well under our current budget expectations. Programming and outreach, they had a wonderful month this past month of having over 124 adults attending library programs. I believe that is a record that was set. So that was, as well as the One Book, One Community participation was well received. We're still working on the challenges, but that's always a hit or miss. So gauging the community on that. Workforce Wednesdays, the library staff will be going to the high school to talk about what services we have for those who are going to be entering the workforce or considering their career opportunities as they enter the, as we say, real world. Programming and outreach for the youth. Again, we did see a little picture of the results of the tiny art. This is the teens participating in it. They do have planned for winter tie-dye for teens, STEM, and story time will be taking a break, but it will resume January 4th. The minutes read, I was really astounded that they were so close to 1 million minutes read at 880,000. So hats off to those who did participate in that Beanstack Challenge. I did want to give you guys just a heads up that I will be emailing you guys with the opportunity to present or participate again in another community meet and greet. I haven't set the date yet, but Ellen and I are working on some good things marketing-wise, and that's something that's going to be featured in the January, February marketing. So I will be emailing you guys this week with a date once we get something finalized between us. For hopefully you to be able to attend. It is not mandatory, but it is something that allows you guys the opportunity to meet with the community, and I think that those who did participate last time got some really good insights from the community, so looking forward to doing another one. And that's all from me. Anything else from me, or any questions for me? Let's see now, how do I go out of it? Is it just escape?
It's just escape.
Okay. See, I forget the keyboard exists. I know.
And while you're getting technology up, I know the One Book, One Community was highly successful, and I loved our participation in that. I know the Fargo Public Schools also participates in the Global Read Aloud. And so I don't know if we showcase that book at all, or if there's a way to, and I don't know if West Fargo Public Schools participated in that, but we had our high schools in particular read the book, and we actually had staff at our district office read the book too. And so for next year, thinking about even just showcasing, here's our global read aloud that schools and kids are participating in. I was just looking up, and it looks like they have 1 million kids and counting. And the goal for that is for kids to read this book, but to connect to others across the world around the same book. So just as a thought, nothing immediate, but it was, for me, it was a genre that I probably wouldn't have picked up of a young adult's book, but it was really entertaining. And to think about, we had kids across the world reading the same book, so. just
That's
a thought.
a wonderful program, and
Yes.
I have it noted now to bring it up to the youth service.
Yeah, just a thought.
And
Again, nothing immediate, no action to be
Yeah.
taken, but.
Betty, how is work coming on the challenge form?
That is actually what we're going to be discussing at our next department head meeting. So actually, I do meet with them every month with the department head meetings, sorry, coming back into the swing of things. And the department head meeting that we have next planned, we are going to evaluate all of what's remaining in policies. Ellen did a fantastic job of coordinating what policies are where and when they were last looked at. And that's one of them that we have highlighted as in the yellow phase, which is that we're aware of it, we want to get it knocked out. Where it falls in the line of duties and getting it to you guys is where we're at with that.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just from past experience, or my present job, actually, with our challenge policy, we have a policy on that, and we went through the American Library Association for them to look at it as well. And they found it to be a really strong policy in terms of the steps that we have parents, in this case, take, or students for that matter.
Yeah.
So I am curious as we get to those steps in finalizing that.
Well, if you're okay with forwarding it to us, we
Yeah.
are happy to see others.
I will, because ours is policy 4250 in Fargo Public Schools, and it's actually, we got complimented from the ALA about how strong it is, and we've really allowed our policy to set the stage for supporting all kids, and that is our goal, is to support all kids in our schools, and so I am proud of the work that this policy helps support, so I'd be happy to pass it on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We would be happy to receive it and review it when we have that set up. Because, yeah, as I said, it's one of the talking points for our next meeting. So.
Yeah, and I think, again, I'm very policy focused, and so I think if we have a strong policy to really
Lean on.
that helps provide, I think, more dialogue with patrons and with kids around why we have the books we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to bring up the monthly impact report as well, so you guys can see that if you need. And any other questions or notes for me?
Anything else? All right.
Guys.
Thank you. We have come to the end of our agenda. Any other last comments, questions?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign.